This is East Idaho Newsmakers with Nate Eaton.
Welcome to East Idaho Newsmakers. On May 16th, voters in Idaho Falls and Bonneville County will head to the polls to decide if Eastern Idaho Technical College should be transformed into a community college named the College of Eastern Idaho. Now, a supermajority vote is needed, that's 66%, in order for the community college to be built or be transformed here in East Idaho. That is the topic of today's East Idaho Newsmakers. We're thrilled to have Steve Taggart with us and Larry Lyon with us. Steve supports the community college. He is an Idaho Falls attorney and a spokesman for the Citizens for Affordable Education. Larry Lyon is a former Idaho Falls City Councilman. He is affiliated with the Idaho PAC. How the format will work is they will each get 2 minutes to give an opening statement expressing their views on the community college, and then we will go through 5 questions. Each of them will have the same question. They can, of course, throw in any statements that they want to say, and then they will each get a closing statement. So, with that underway, we will get started with Steve Taggart. Steve, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Fine. This is really an important decision on May 16th. Eastern Idaho Technical College today is a technical college, and it means it's highly restricted. It's run by the State Board of Education. It offers technical programs. It does some academic programs, but they don't automatically transfer. It's an institution that could be much more. The issue before the voters is really going to come down to 3 things. If we turn ITech into a community college, what will happen is the existing technical programs will grow because we'll have a local board that'll be able to do that. The second thing is it will reduce the cost of tuition. Right now, when our students locally go, for instance, to ISU, a 3-credit class runs $1,044. With a community college, we're looking at $375. It's a savings about $700 just for that one class. The third issue is the effect on the economy. By having a community college, we'll bring back dollars now that our students are currently taking elsewhere. We'll also have the effect of creating a tool for economic development and for our existing companies to have the workforce they need. The impacts are pretty substantial. We're looking at $66 million in increased economic activity per year and about 900 jobs, 2/3 in the private sector. Those are good reasons to vote yes.
All right, Larry.
All right, thank you. It is a very important decision, and one thing that I think people need to know when they hear all these promises about what all these wonderful things that this community college is going to do is they don't seem to want to talk about what the real price tag is. Because what people are doing when they go into that voting booth is they are creating a tax district. They're creating an entity that has the power to take your money by force, and if you don't meet every demand that places on you, then there can be some really negative consequences. We have plenty of educational opportunities here in Bonneville County and the surrounding area already. I'm just surprised when I hear proponents talk about this thing like there's no other opportunities. We have plenty of opportunities, and we have plenty of affordable opportunities as well. But I think the biggest reason to vote no on this is that they don't seem to be telling us the whole truth. The word tax or tax district didn't appear on the petitions that were circulated to put this on the ballot, and it doesn't appear on the ballot either. And if you're going to create a tax district, certainly that's something that you should know up front, and you should be fully informed of what all the implications are.
Okay, you both made some statements that we'll discuss throughout the next 30 minutes. Let's start with question number 1. Larry, we'll begin with you. How much will this cost the taxpayers, and what will guarantee that the cost doesn't change?
Well, first of all, there is no guarantee that the cost won't change. And how much will it cost? Well, proponents indicate that it'll cost the average taxpayer $13 a year. When did you ever see a tax that only costs $13 a year? That's a completely phony number. How do you know? Well, all you do is you go and look at what the other community colleges in the state are costing. That $13 number is based on the premise that the taxing district will not take more than $860,000 out of the Bonneville County economy. But Idaho State Code actually allows that district to take, based on current Bonneville County valuations, over $7.5 million. So the question people need to ask themselves is this: when the government has power to take over $7.5 million, but they tell you they're only going to take less than the 1 million, what should you do? Don't believe them. That's the correct answer. So the cost of this thing, who knows what they're going to be, but they're certainly going to be way more than are projected.
Steve?
Sure. The key point here is really, the issue is what fundamentally will this cost, but more importantly, who makes the decision? It's a board of trustees that will consist of local people. And so if you have local people, the question is, what will they be guided by? The answer is state law. State law is real simple. It says that it's for the operations and maintenance of the college. That's the state statute. And we actually know what those are. There was a study panel that was put together. It consisted of a series of folks locally who went through and looked at the real costs of running ITech and then added in the community college functions. When you put those together, that's how the numbers were generated. And so that's the basis of the $13 people hear about. It's based on real numbers, not fantasies or fears. Now, here's an important point. The opponents like to point at the other three community colleges in Idaho. They neglect one. It's the College of Eastern Idaho over in Boise. Its cost is basically within a buck of what we're talking about. The two that they like to talk about is College of Southern Idaho in Twin Falls and North Idaho College up in Coeur d'Alene. Well, the issue there is they have buildings. I was just in Twin Falls. That college has a planetarium, a fine arts center, a gymnasium, an event center, 2 technical buildings that are brand new, and an array of buildings. Those have been built by their local taxpayers. We don't have to because ITech already exists. That's the key. That's what makes this economical. We get our campus without paying for it. That's unique.
Okay. Question number 2, how will a community college hurt or help East Idaho? Steve, we'll start with you.
Well, the benefits are substantial. We talked, in my opening statement, I talked about growing the economy. That's a big deal. We have a lot of local employers who are hurting right now. They can't get the workforce they need. For instance, Eastern Idaho Regional Medical Center right now would hire 60 nurses that they can't get. A local board in charge of the college will allow them to customize the programs we need. For instance, Southern Idaho College has lots of programs that are ag-related. We'll be able to see the things that meet our local needs. For instance, one that is a particular interest is cybersecurity. Right now, the INL has a cybersecurity piece that is growing rapidly. They've hired 500 folks over the last couple of years. They're having to hire out of area. If the new community college provides folks with that kind of training, it means locals get hired rather than folks out of area. So jobs are a big piece of it. There's other components. One thing that we should focus on is what are called dual credits. Our high school students can get college credit, but right now they're taking them in our county at 1/8 the rate of Pocatello. The reason is ITech cannot offer the academic dual credits. What we're depending on is the pieces we get from CSI and from ISU locally, and they are bits and pieces. That's a big advantage.
All right, Larry, how will this help or hurt East Idaho?
Well, I think the first person that it's going to hurt is the taxpayers, because they're going to be charged way more than what the proponents claim they're going to take. But I want to speak for just a minute to this board. The way this board is going to work, initially it won't be elected. It'll be appointed by the State Board of Education. And that's significant because that initial board is who will set the initial budget, which could be over $7.5 million. The reason that's important is because after that, the budget increases are capped by state law at 3%. So there's a financial incentive for this initial board to set their budget as high as possible so that they have the maximum that they can take in subsequent years. As far as credits that, we hear that credits don't transfer from ITech. Well, I'm actually a graduate of ITech, and the credits I took, I've transferred into an associate's degree program and into 2 bachelor's degree programs. So I never had any problem with that. But again, it just comes back to the feeling that the proponents are not being completely forthright. They're not, telling us the whole story. I think the economic benefits are way overblown because you don't help the economy by raising taxes. You don't help the economy by hiring hundreds more government employees. You don't help the economy by increasing the bureaucracy. You can't tax yourself into prosperity, and that's what the proponents of this don't seem to understand.
You've both touched a little bit on this, but let's go a little deeper. What is the educational need in East Idaho for a community college? Larry, we'll start with you.
Thank you. Well, when I had an educational need, there were a number of good options that I had, and I chose to go to ITech. But we've really got many educational opportunities here in Idaho Falls and in Bonneville County. But I think the one thing that's interesting, when they say we need a community college, the reality is we already have a community college. CSI Idaho Falls is already here. We're told that ITech is the perfect place to put a community college, but I can't seem to get a good answer as to why, if that's the case, why CSI Idaho Falls isn't already located there. They came here, they've been here for a couple of years, they've grown at the rate of about 150 students a year. The optimistic projections of the proponents of this are that within 6 years, we'll have over 4,000 students. At the current rate of CSI Idaho Falls student growth, it would take over 20 years to get that many students. So with all the other educational options available, everything from dual credits, which are available through the extensions that are here in Idaho Falls, you know, we see the level of interest in a community college, and it's 300 students, not 4,000 students.
All right, Steve, what's the educational need here for the college?
Yeah, let me start with the College of Southern Idaho piece first. There is the College of Southern Idaho does have a branch here. It is a little building off of Lincoln Road. It has 4 classrooms. 2 are extremely tiny, 2 are much larger. I have 2 sons that attend. Their programs are extraordinarily limited. That's not a substitute for a community college, nor was it ever intended. The purpose of it was to build a pool of instructors that could roll into the community college. That, you know, College of Southern Idaho has been very upfront about that. The issue is, in terms of need, here's what's going on right now. We do have local options. You know, there's University Place, you've got BYU up the road, you got ISU down the road the other way. The issue is they're much more expensive. ISU degrees, and that includes credits at both ISU and University Place are 3 times what we're talking with a community college. BYU Idaho, well, is a tremendous resource, is really focused on the LDS community, but it's still 21% more. The point is that we have the student bodies, we have the students, but they're going elsewhere right now. This is a chance to bring them home. If you look at the growth of the community college, the College of Western Idaho over in the Boise Valley, they have a much bigger population base, but they're on their track towards 25,000 students, going towards 40,000 is the track that they're on. That's the kind of, you know, there is a pent-up demand for colleges that provide cheap education or affordable education and provide the kind of technical education that is needed. This is what a community college will do for our area.
All righty. I have to say, you're both doing very well at staying within the time limits. A lot of times we get people that just talk and talk, so thank you very much. Again, another...
We're afraid of you. So.
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
Both of us are.
You're doing very well. Let's go into the economy, which you both have mentioned as well. Let's delve a little deeper here. The fourth question we have for each of you, and Steve will start. How will this community college, if it is passed, how will it help or hurt the economy? Well,
the biggest issue is really, you know, I've talked already, it'll provide the workforce our local employers need. It'll help provide that. There's a piece we haven't talked about, and it's an incredibly important piece, and that's economic development. Our area has some great strengths. We have a relatively low unemployment rate. We have the Idaho National Laboratory. We have some cool things going on locally, but we've got some problems. The Idaho National Laboratory today says that it is handicapped by the lack of a community college here. The reason that's important is that we have the site has approximately 30% of their workers are on a retirement track. The question is, who do they get hired? You know, who gets hired to replace them? The reality right now is that many of those positions do not require advanced degrees. They require certificates or associates. And so the issue is, without a community college, it means that the people that get hired are from somewhere else, not locally. That's a big piece right there. The other piece is economic development. Jan Rogers is the head of regional economic development for the area. She's from Magic Valley. She said that the College of Southern Idaho was the secret in her toolbox that allowed her to land a whole array of companies, from Dell, you know, from high techs to food manufacturers in the Magic Valley. It's called the Magic Valley Miracle. Well, we don't have that now, and she'll tell you that she needs this in order to land the good jobs that we need in this area. That's real dollars in people's pockets. Good jobs, better jobs.
Larry?
Well, one thing that is interesting to note is that the Tingey building over at University Place was recently remodeled at a cost of $800,000. And ISU plans to expand their offerings over there with the Idaho National Lab in mind. So, you know, I don't know why we need a community college. We've got ISU, we've got the Tingey building was just remodeled. Articles that have been written about that say they want to expand their undergraduate programs from 10 to 25, their graduate programs from 6 to 15. So obviously they're gearing up to meet that need. As far as ITech, being a graduate from ITech myself and a former employee out at the Idaho National Lab, I can tell you for years ITech has worked with the Idaho Lab. They've offered certificates and associate's degrees in radiation safety, environmental science. They've done a great job in preparing employees to take jobs out at the lab. And in terms of the economic benefits, we're told that if we just allow ourselves to be taxed less than $1 million a year, that'll translate into $66 million in economic benefit. Well, if you can put in less than $1 million and get $66 million out, well, we ought to be building 10 of these things. But I would ask your viewing audience to ask themselves, out of that $66 million that you're being told that's going to be the benefit, how much of that is going to end up in your checking account? When is your dividend check from that $66 million going to show up? I'm not going to hold my breath, and I don't think you should either.
All right. Larry, we'll start with you on this question. What will be the long-term effects overall of a community college?
Well, it's a good question, and it's a speculative question. And without having a crystal ball and just looking at what the budgets are for the other community colleges here in Idaho, I think the only thing that we can say for certain of what the long-term effects will be is that taxes will go up, costs will go up, the promises, these government promises of bottom basement prices and costs for this community college will be broken. The first year, one of the biggest things that troubles me about this study panel report is that it claims that for the first 6 years, your property taxes are not even going to won't go up from that $860,000, not even $1. Well, I've been on the Idaho Falls City Council. I've been around long enough to know that's just crazy. You know, they always go up. For example, the North Idaho College between 2007 and 2014, their levy rate increased 128%. The amount of dollars that they took out of their tax district increased 72%, and the cost to the average homeowner increased 117%. Now, you might think there was a big economic boom going on at that time, but remember, and this was right out of the North Idaho College budget appendix, this was between 2007 and 2014, right in the middle of the Great Recession, the biggest economic disaster this country has seen since the Great Depression of the 20s and 30s. So what do we learn from that? It doesn't matter how much you hurt, the government's not going to let themselves hurt. And the more pain you're in, it won't matter to them. They'll just take more and more. That's just the nature of government. And that's what we can expect long term.
Steve, long-term effects?
Yeah, let me just address a couple a little bit that was just said, and then let me go into that. The important thing that people need to understand is this, you know, the study panel we're talking about, the Board of Trustees are local folks. It's not some foreign government entity. It's local folks looking at how do you make this area better. And Larry's group continues to insult the sincerity of those folks, but the reality is they want to do what's best. And the answer is a community college. Now, let's talk about cost just briefly. College of Western Idaho's levy rate has actually gone down from about $19 to about $16 per 100,000. So the idea they always go up is just not true. Let's talk about long-term effects. What we're going to see is a community college will mean that our kids and those who need to go back for education and retraining are going to have an affordable option that today costs them up to 3 times as much if they're going to ISU, or about 21% if they go to BYU Idaho. We get affordable education. That locks in. What also locks in is we get an expanded job base. We're going to be able to get better companies in this area. We're going to be able to have our local entities thrive like the Idaho National Laboratory. That's why the business community is embracing the need for a community college. It's not because of anything except they want to help our economy grow. So a stronger economy, cheaper education, those are good things. There's an intangible piece. The people that are most affected by a community college are not those at the top of the class or those who don't get education. It's those that are in between. It's the middle students. And there's a lot of folks that they're on the side today that are going to end up in a poor job that could get a better job because they go to a community college. Those are the people that we're trying to affect. It's going to change lives.
All right. Before closing statements, I have one more question for each of you. Steve, let's say that this passes on May 16th when the election is, or let's say it doesn't pass. Let's say this doesn't pass on May 16th. Do you plan to go forward with another vote? Do you plan to continue to fight for the community college?
Do you know, we haven't even had a discussion about that. The intent is to win on May 16th.
You're confident?
Yeah.
Larry, let's say it does pass, the community college comes. Will you support it?
Well, what choice do you have at that point? The voice of the people, has been heard, and I guess the one concern that I have is that proponents would say that we want full community engagement, but yet they've chosen to run this proposal during an election cycle that has notoriously low turnout numbers.
All right, well, let's get to our closing statements right now. You each get 2 minutes, and Steve, we'll start with you.
Well, basically Bonneville County has choice on May 16th. The question is, do we continue the course where we have now, where education is expensive locally? Do we allow our employers to be constrained? Do we allow the INL not to be able to get the workforce it needs locally? Do we minimize the dual credits that our students take? Or do we do something better? Do we make the jump, and it's a jump, to a community college that is locally run, that the people locally get to hold accountable the Board of Trustees, they get to choose what kind of college they want and establish the parameters. It's a question really of who do you trust and what is the best for our community. There's a lot of positives as a community college, but at its root, it's a personal decision. The voters are going to have to decide which is best and which is not. That's going to be their choice. But there's a thing that I think just underlies all of this, and the question is, this is a chance for us to step up. We're the largest community this side of the Mississippi without our own freestanding institution of higher education. Having this will improve our community, not only in our economy, but our people, and will create more opportunities. And that's the reason to vote yes.
Thank you, Steve. Larry.
Right, thank you. The doomsday scenarios that are laid out by proponents of this proposal, if we don't pass it, they're just not credible. We have plenty of good educational opportunities. Of course, they always talk about the ones that are more expensive, and there are some that are more expensive, but there are also some that are less expensive. 2 examples. One is the LDS Pathway Program. Its credit cost is half what this proposed community college credits would cost. Another is the dual credit opportunities, and there's plenty of opportunities to get dual credit. The cost, in fact, Idaho is committed and is fully funded a program called Fast Forward. It commits $4,125 for every public school student in the state of Idaho. And now every public school student in the state of Idaho, at the same time they graduate high school, can graduate with an associate's degree, if that's what they choose to do. It's a fantastic opportunity. So there's a lot of opportunities out there, but the pro side doesn't, they don't want to talk about those and be fair and balanced about it. But I think the biggest reason to be suspicious of this is when you ask the question, why didn't they put the words tax or tax district on the ballot? Why was CSI Idaho Falls, when it came to Idaho Falls, why wasn't located at the ITech campus, which is supposedly the perfect place to locate a community college? And and why, if we get $66 million in economic benefit for less than $1 million, why isn't that a model for success? Why don't we just build a whole bunch of these things and get multiples of that? There's just too many unanswered questions, and you just feel like you're not getting the full story.
All right. Well, we've had Larry Lyon here today. He opposes the community college, former Idaho Falls City Councilman. He's affiliated with Idaho PAC. Supporting the community college, we've listened to Steve Taggart, an Idaho Falls attorney and a spokesman for the Citizens for Affordable Higher Education. Both of you, thank you very much. As I mentioned, you kept to your times, and we didn't have to ring a bell or anything once. Again, the election is Tuesday, May 16th. A supermajority is needed to have ITech be transformed into the College of Eastern Idaho. We are going to put links to both of the websites and Facebook pages in the comments and the stories below, and we encourage you to be informed and head out to the polls on Tuesday. This has been East Idaho Newsmakers. Thanks for watching.